Welcome back to the Classic and Current Gaming Podcast, a weekly podcast where we look at the history and development of video games. I'm your host, RxDude22, and this is Season 2 of the podcast, where we're looking at games being used in Season 7 of the Retro Gaming League. The Retro Gaming League is a fun, competitive league on Facebook where different pages from around the world come face-to-face and head-to-head each other in a different retro video game each and every week. This week's game for the league comes to us from the PlayStation 1. It was ported over from an arcade. In the mid-90s, we're going to look at Marvel Superheroes. Let's dive right into the episode. Marvel Superheroes is a fighting game developed and published by Capcom. Originally released in 1995 for the CP System 2 arcade, it was later ported to the Sega Saturn and PlayStation. It features playable superheroes and villains from the Marvel Comics. The game, alongside Marvel vs. Capcom Clash of Superheroes, was also included in the Marvel vs. Capcom Origins Collection, released digitally for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 in September 2012. Marvel Superheroes is loosely based on the Infinity Gauntlet storyline of the Marvel Universe. It is the second Capcom fighting game based on characters from the Marvel Comics line, following X-Men, Children of the Atom, and was later succeeded by the Marvel vs. Capcom series. Gameplay. Marvel Superheroes is a fighting game in which superheroes and villains from the Marvel Universe fight against each other. Loosely based on the Infinity Gauntlet storyline, the game focuses on heroes and villains battling each other for the Infinity Gems. The main antagonist is Thanos, who plots to use the Infinity Gems to take over the universe. The aim of the game is to use attacks and special abilities to knock out the opponent or possess more life than him/her at the end of the round. Throughout the match, players build up a super meter which can be used to perform powerful Infinity combo attacks. A unique mechanic in the game are the Infinity Gems: Power, Time, Space, Reality, Soul, and Mind. These gems can be earned by obtaining them from opponents during arcade mode or by fulfilling certain criteria during versus mode, such as getting the first hit. By using these gems in battle, fighters receive enhanced effects for a short amount of time, such as increased power or defense, health recovery, or additional attacks. Certain fighters will receive extra benefits whilst using certain gems. For example, if Spider-Man uses the power gem, he can create a doppelganger on the opposite side of the screen for extra damage during his attacks. Each gem can be activated in battle, giving the user a different power for a few seconds. In addition, each character has a gem they have a special affinity for and will get additional abilities whenever they activate it. The player can also steal a gem from the opponent. To do this, the player must hit the opponent with special move or a special super move in succession. Once the player got the gem, some characters will have special property changes on their traits. Playable characters in the game include Blackheart, Captain America, Professor Hulk, Iron Man, Juggernaut, Magneto, Psylocke, Shuma Gorath, Spider-Man, Wolverine, and Doctor Doom and Thanos as unlockable boss characters. Infinite combos. Enterprising players have found that every character in-game is able to perform at least 2 infinite combos, i.e. a string of hits that can be repeated and sustained until a foe's health gauge is depleted without a chance to retaliate. For instance, Wolverine is able to attack a regular-sized foe with a 5-6 hit string before launching them into the air for an aerial combo, continuing with 3 to 4 hits, and ending with a strong punch kick that brings the foe back to the ground. After hitting the ground, he is able to hit them with an OTG, an attack that hits enemies who've been knocked on the ground, and launch them again to repeat the barrage. The infinites are also prominent in the sequel, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, and has become an unintended feature in every game in the series afterwards. By that game, however, safeguards reduce their lethality using features like damage scaling to reduce infinites to little or no damage, Dizzy Outs, which pop a character free if the same chain was used for over 50 hits, and Hit Stun Decay, which decreases the number of frames the opponent is stunned by attacks proportionally to how long the combo has gone on, making the repeatable string more difficult and eventually impossible to do. Development. Capcom included the 4 characters from X-Men, Children of the Atom, which their market research had determined to be the most popular: Wolverine, Juggernaut, Magneto, and Psylocke. The home conversions of the game were unveiled on the first day of the 1996 Electronic Entertainment Expo, with Stan Lee appearing at the booth. The Saturn version supports the 1MB RAM expansion cartridge to include extra frames of animation and slightly quicker load times. In 2019, the game was announced as one of the titles to be included in the Marvel Arcade 1-Up arcade cabinet. The game was dedicated to Marvel artist Jack Kirby, who had died on February 6, 1994. On the arcade version of the game, Doctor Doom or Thanos can be chosen via a code at the selection screen. However, if the game is completed with Thanos, Magneto's ending text will be displayed. Artwork unique to this ending suggests that a true ending for him was planned, but not completed. Thanos has a correct ending in the console ports. Reception. In Japan, Game Machine listed Marvel Superheroes on their December 15, 1995 issue as being the 11th most successful arcade game of the month. The arcade version received positive reviews. Computer and Video Games awarded a full 5 out of 5 rating. Despite scoring it only 3 out of 5 stars, Next Generation gave it a relentlessly positive review, saying it blends loads of combo-powered attacks with liquid-smooth animation to contend with some of the best fighters out there. They were also pleased with the selection of Marvel characters and 2D graphics, saying they make a refreshing change from the polygon-based fighters that by this time were dominating the fighting games market. Wizard opinioned that with great graphics, challenging gameplay, and plenty of moves, throws, and counters, Marvel Superheroes has much to offer. The Saturn version was widely praised as having the same large, detailed sprites as the arcade version, though some criticized the slowdown which occurs when the RAM expansion cart is used and or larger characters are on screen. GamePro called it an excellent port of the arcade game, which was a quarter burner last year. Rich Ledbetter of Sega Saturn magazine praised the Saturn conversion for retaining all the scenery effects of the arcade version and commented that Marvel Superheroes makes 2D graphics cool again. By contrast, in text repeated in GameSpot's reviews of both the Saturn and PlayStation versions, Jeff Gertzman concluded, "While I found the arcade game a blast, this version just seemed dull and boring. Whether this can be attributed to the translation itself or the fact that several mostly better Capcom fighters have been released in arcades since Marvel, I don't know." Electronic Gaming's Monthly 4 reviewers were split, with Sushi X and John Riccardi hailing the Saturn conversion as impressive, while Kelly Rickards and Dan Su considered it passable but disappointing. In turn, Sushi X and Rickards found the game itself flashy with little balance and technique, while Riccardi and Su felt it had depth beneath its flash. Next Generation approved of the conversion, but argued that the gameplay was not enough of an advancement over previous Capcom fighting games, ensuing that newcomers to the series should give it a spin, but veterans might want to wait until the fabled X-Men vs. Street Fighter arrives at the end of the year. Critics generally regard the PlayStation version as inferior to the Saturn version, due to the Saturn version having less slowdown and more frames of animation. GamePro cited the game as evidence that the PlayStation could not handle 2D as well as the Saturn, rated the PlayStation version lower than the Saturn version in every category except graphics, and summarized that although it's identical to the Saturn version in features, the PlayStation game loses serious points for its unplayability. The same 4 EGM reviewers covered the Saturn and PlayStation versions, with each of their 4 rating the PlayStation version half a point lower than the Saturn version. Gertzman said the speech samples have better quality in the PlayStation version, but still regard the Saturn version as, quote, slightly better. In 2013, Marvel Superheroes ranked as the 16th best Marvel video game by Geek Magazine for its chaotic yet insanely fun gameplay. That same year, Rich Knight and Gus Turner of Complex included on their list of 25 best 2D fighting games of all time, stating that the gem collecting mechanic was a big difference maker for the title, and as a result, the game still feels fresh today. All information here was provided by Wikipedia and Marvelscape Capcom Fandom Wikipedia. And that'll wrap up episode 26 of the Classic and Current Gaming Podcast. We're in Season 2 looking at the games being used in Season 7 of the Retro Gaming League. There are many ways you can check out the podcast. You can see it recorded with video on YouTube, or you can listen to it on Spotify or your other favorite listening platform as well. We'll be back next week with yet another PlayStation title. Next week, we're looking at Doom, the classic first-person shooter. It's been RxD22 from the Classic and Current Gaming Podcast signing out. Keep on gaming. See you on the next stream. Be good to each other, and you'll hear me on the next podcast coming up next week. Everybody have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.